Hello, hello.
Hello. You already did the presentation?
Yeah, I did. I did a presentation at CDCon. I demoed it. And actually I don't know if I didn't think about demoing it today. I guess if you guys want, I can demo it next week because we're setting up a playground, so that people can see it in action, but it uses the Cedrus, expressions to lay out a build, and of course it's an enclosed event system, so you end up with essentially, even in its raw form, it's just this, corporate enterprise pub sub kind of thing where anybody can subscribe to a pipeline in the company if they have access, but it's only one surface.
Okay. Do you know if the talk was recorded at the CDCon?
Yeah, it's recorded. It's the keynote. It's recorded. I can send you a recording, and then I got interviewed with Textron TV. That's also recorded. Um, yeah, and I should have, and I apologize because I really did mean to show it here. But we were like down to the wire with the demo.
Yeah.
And so even what I had like right before the thing wasn't the same thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
No
so you know how it is.
I mean, the talk was recorded. Maybe you
Yeah,
should share the
yeah,
link when
yeah.
it will be published. I was curious.
When it's available, definitely. But it would be simpler for me to like even like, I'll put it on the agenda for next week. And then in next week's meeting, I will show everybody here because I'm going to do it for the ambassadors, where my team is standing up a playground where people can just play with the mechanic. You aren't actually, of course, doing any builds. You're basically, saying, hey, this is what the build would be. Because they're CD events, it doesn't matter what the build system is, they're going to still come out CD events. So that makes the playground possible, and then you can see how the old thing would work in a corporate setting. But the trick to it is the expressions make it and give you the ability to describe a build any way you want. And that's the real key because that's the big problem, right? Is the illocution and locution and perlocution crap, which is basically people say things, but they don't mean the same thing. When people say build, it's different builds. They mean different things when people say, yeah. And so it just makes it
Yes.
explicit.
Okay.
Oh, hey, folks, how we doing?
Hello, everyone. Give me 1 second.
Hello. Good
Hello.
day. Yeah, I'm traveling. Like to hear today's Open Summit experience.
Yeah, Ben was there too.
Yep, yep.
So, yeah, so I did as I was telling David, I did do the presentation. I should have thought to do it today for you guys in this group. If we can calendar it for next week, I will do the full walkthrough. We're setting up a playground so that people can play with the mechanic. I thought it went over well. Ben, were you in the keynote? I don't know that you're.
No. Actually, I sent you a message earlier
Mhm.
that because my plane got delayed, and so I had to
Oh.
fly out the next morning. Like, so
Mhm.
I didn't think I was gonna make it at first. I was like, oh, this is gonna be kind of close. But luckily, yeah, I was able to get in early in the next morning. But yeah, I was unable to meet the or see the keynote though.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, the keynote itself was very keynotey in that, if I did that talk here, you guys would just laugh at me, because you're so deep in the thing. And it was more me just explaining to people what the problem is, but when it lands, it landed on what the Cedric expression actually kind of looks like, and then showed them how, as you're passing these events forward, you would step through the system to be able to do a thing. And that's like I said, I'll be more than happy to just put me on the calendar for next week, and I'll take you
Okay.
guys through it and then show you guys the playground. We've got to get that. We're setting that up for our investors and some potential partners, and so everyone can see it.
So
And
next week is the second. Are you okay with that, DDC?
yeah, it's my birthday week. I mean, this is where it started, right? I can do
Okay,
it.
okay. All right, so June 2nd. I'll put it on the calendar. Second, and then I'll just put this agenda, 2%, and then put agenda. What do you want me to call it?
You can just call it Cedrus, which is the CDRUS, like CD, capital CD, and small RUS.
Oh,
Oh, that's fine.
okay,
That works too. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay,
Cedrus.
okay.
Yeah. It's so what it's literally just the workflow segments, but that name just doesn't flow. And then it would be workflow segments of workflow segments,
Mhm.
where expressions of expressions just seem to roll a little bit better.
Okay. All right, so yeah, we have you on the calendar for next week. So I did talk to Andrea, had a long conversation with him about mostly it's been very hard to get anything merged. Because like so if I create a PR, for example, it requires Andrea to to review it, and unfortunately he has unfortunately not looked at any of my stuff. So I asked him if we could do what Cloud Events does, which I think is a pretty good um, way of how they handle their working groups and making sure nothing gets blocked. So what they do is they have people on the call and they have a vote on the PR. And if people say okay, or if it's basically unanimous, they go ahead and merge it. If there's any sort of inkling that things look out of place or there's bigger questions, then they hold off and then they let the maintainers handle it. And I really like that flow because it allows for things to move a lot faster. And it doesn't, and plus, Andrea's in the Europe time zone and we're in the States except for David. David's still here. So thank you for being here, David. But I think that pattern will allow us to merge things more quickly. And if things are done improperly, we can always fix it, right? We can always just roll forwards. I'm not worried about, because like when we do a release, right, we would, make sure that things look good. So, I wanted to kind of get everyone's opinion on that flow because I feel like that the big blocker for us right now has been getting these PRs in because yeah, it's I'm really I've looked at some of the PRs, I've given my comments and whatnot, but I try to let others get some comments in before merging. But when it comes to my PRs, I can't really do that, right? So I wanted to kind of get everyone else's takes. I mean, obviously we need more maintainers, so that's always going to be number one too. But
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think that can work, but I do think that the push should be for more maintainers,
yeah, for sure.
just to be sure. And that's a better question. How do we get more people into the community involved,
Yeah.
to get more maintainers? Yeah, thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if, like so my experience with the cloud event stuff has been really like seeing how quickly they move in some things. I mean, obviously they move slower in other things, but it has been really, really nice to see. Like obviously for bigger PRs, right, when a new proposal comes in, that usually takes a little bit more time. And they're just not merging whatever, right? But for like the more smaller things, for example, right, like if it was like a doc update, right, that I did, I would
Mhm.
have to wait for another maintainer to go and look at it before we merge it, as opposed to just saying, hey, does this doc update look good in this SIG? Yes? Okay, let's go ahead and merge it. And we can always do it like that, where lower hanging fruit, can be done here, but the bigger stuff can always require a maintainer as well. So we can always, it doesn't need to be all or nothing for either strategy as well. And I think that's how it actually works. I don't think it's all or nothing. I think they definitely have a balance, and we just need to find what that balance is for us. but yeah, I think finding more maintainers should be kind of the highest priority right now because like I said, all the PRs that I have been hanging, which makes it even harder because I don't want to create another PR if it's just gonna be like sitting there, right? So
Right.
so that's why it's been very and I think I've the last like 3 months I've pinged Andrea just on these 2 PRs that I've had open. So it's been
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. I see
so
what
that's
you're
why it's
saying.
been kind of a little bit frustrating. So
Would it help if um, yeah, I can become a maintainer too, guys. There's not.
yeah, no, no. I was, like I, I'm okay. Yeah, I'm totally. I think we need someone. Like, I think so. Here's my thought. So I think we need. I was going to actually recommend you, DDC. I've asked David before, but I think David's uninterested as well. Is that still true, David, or would you okay? Because like I think if we added you, DDC, and David, I think we'd be at a really good place. Because David's also in Europe, so if Andrea
Yeah.
needs someone to, look at the PRs, he has someone he could ping his time zone. But is that something you want to take on, David? Just as a maintainer, you would have no other role except for to look over a PR.
Yes, I can. The but today, from my point of view, the main issue is the back and forth between comments and the delay we take to review comment, have answer to question. It's more than the technical aspect of clicking on the merge button. But yes, we can. I can.
Okay,
If
awesome,
we
awesome.
vote during this this meeting and we agree to merge something, and you are the author because it's blocked by GitHub with the default rules
Mhm.
that are set up, I can do the merge.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean. Like if you add a couple more maintainers to it, and then we do this in the meetings, you'll likely have more than one maintainer in the
Mhm.
meeting, and then that would help that process along quickly, right? Because then we could really just talk about some of these things and not do it out of
Yes,
band,
yes.
because that's part of the issue too, right? Is the getting people to sync up on it, right? And
Yeah,
make a
yeah.
decision. And then, just looking at some of the comments on here that go, well, that's always been a thing for me. Um,
Oh, I
the
put your name there, Denise. I know you said, but I just wanted to confirm. So you're okay with being a maintainer, right?
I would be more than happy to be a
Okay.
maintainer, and and I probably should have done that years ago. But when I was trying to be inclusive and get like people on my team to do things,
Hmm.
so yeah, that's the only reason why I didn't become a maintainer because I wanted the team to do
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It makes it easy then. Yeah, because like you
it.
said, like we literally just doubled our maintainers. Right. I'll let Andrea know. I'm sure he'll have no issues with it. But yeah, this will definitely help me. Because yeah, like my worry is just at this point, it's been very hard to get anything merged. And you're right, David. This is only one side of the issues, right? It does take, a lot of time for like, comments, back and forth and whatnot. But that's why I really like cloud events approach. And like I said, we don't have to do like how they do it fully, but what we can do, however, is if there is we always look at GitHub events, like the first like 10 minutes, we always look at GitHub PRs and issues, right? So that'll be like the first 10 to 15 minutes. And then if we have a unanimous vote, so a maintainer just go ahead and approves it, and then we just merge it at
Yeah,
the
at the
same
meeting.
stage.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So I think that will help everyone, and I think right now it's just been the just being me and Andrea, which has made it very, very hard to like get anything merged in. But this will allow us to move a lot more quickly now. So okay, cool. Sounds good. Yeah, that makes me really happy. Because the reason why I was going with because I was worried that no one would want to be a maintainer. Because like I said, we asked David in the past, but maintainers would only be in the reviewing aspect. It would be less about like hosting the working groups unless you want to. That's completely fine. But I'm just saying you don't have to take on that responsibility if you don't want to. So we just need people from the code base perspective.
No, it's not why I decline in the past. It's because when I start to be a maintainer, I start to be like a dictator, and with more power, I start to bypass sometimes. So it's why I avoid to have more power.
Ah, got it,
Yes.
got it. Yeah, yeah.
It's
That's
more
definitely Yeah.
Sorry. No, sorry. I thought I was on mute, to tell you the truth. I was going to do the Spider-Man thing.
Oh, yeah. What I was gonna say is that's completely fine, David. That's why there's more than one maintainer, is because the goal is like a checks and balances, right? Like two maintainers disagree, we still need to be able to disagree and be productive, right? So, and I think having the because you're really good at the implementation side of things, David. So, like, I think having you as a maintainer becomes very, very valuable because you have a different insight when you're looking into CD events, right? Um, as opposed to someone like me, I'm looking at it from more of a governance schema and like and like how the things behave like semantically, right? So, and you definitely can't have one or the other. You need a balance of both. So I think having you is going to be really key. And then Denise is just he can flip flop between both sides of like the theory and the implementation. So I think having him as a balance as well will really help. So, okay, cool. I'll go ahead and ping Andrea. And then once I get the okay from him, we can, I think just the process is we create a GitHub pull request and then we just vote on it. Um, actually, yeah, just do that. Yeah. So let me see. So David and DC to create PR, add maintainer list. Yeah, so we just do this. I'll ping Andrea to review this. Ping Andrea review, and I'll give you guys my votes, and that will help. Okay, cool. Sounds good. So with that said, I don't know if we have any other issues. So the PRs and issues, they've already been reviewed. It's just that it's all blocked right now with Andrea. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about, because this is the one that we mentioned. So I did think about PR with the merging of the subject source and subject ID, and I think we should just keep them separate. Like, so that's where we landed. I think most of us were in agreement, and I know you had um, some reservations, David. But I think I think what needs to happen first before we even consider something like this. So this is kind of where my mindset's right now, right? Is that when we were talking about this, right? You were like, no, 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 source meant this. And I was like, no, well, source is supposed to mean this, right? That's a problem in the definitions, right? So before we even think about merging things, I think we need to take a step back and first say exactly what these things mean, right? And that way, when we're talking about source and we're talking about, ID or whatever, right? Like when we say source, we need to say context source or subject source, but we're very clear on this distinction, right? And if there is no distinction, then we should opt to remove it or possibly merge it, like you were saying, right? But I think we first need to do a better job of describing these fields, because if we go back to here, let me see, I think it's common metadata.
I would like to avoid that we go back to this online discussion because it will be a recurrent discussion.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah,
maybe as we agree previous time, it's just to comment the PR, maybe to include the proposal for source definition, etc., and
yeah.
discuss
No, yeah, that
offline
was going to
in the
be.
PR and answer questions. So that DC could also participate where he will have time and
Yeah, I
not
can show you.
pollute this meeting with maybe this recurrent discussion, because offline with some trust, it will be easier for any one of us to sync with some delay, night, shower, or whatever. But,
Yeah. And again, guys, I apologize because I actually do have actual examples for the things that I was talking about. And so I was not prepared for the meeting today. We
Oh
are
yeah,
like heads down on the playground. And like I said, when I demo next week, hopefully I should be able to show you guys how we're using it and why we need them split. And not in a combination. But I think it's also the kind of thing where most people who are grabbing CD events are going to do distributed eventing.
Mhm.
And my use case is event orchestration, where it's like, So I think that might have something to do with it too, is that it's so close to being the same thing and you kind of end up in the same place. But it's doing some other stuff. So yeah, I'll have the example for you guys next week.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. And like I said, like whatever decision, like when we make a decision, rather than revisiting this, because like I said, this is what I was just kind of talking about.
Yeah.
What I will do is, we will. It sounds like we'll vote to close the PR, and it sounds like everyone's in agreement. We'll close the PR.
Oh, well, if we're in agreement, we can just close it now. That helps.
Yeah, that's why I mean. So we close it, right? And we have an action item to update the
The
definitions of
definition.
like the source context and whatnot. So I think that's the best approach now. And I think, once we start outlining the definition, then we can start poking holes at things. I think that's the right approach. So what I will do is I will go back to that PR and I'll close it, but I want to also figure out how we want to update these I guess we'll just update it here. Okay.
I will be more in favor to not close it today, maybe to answer
Okay.
the question,
Yeah, that's
and
fine.
maybe close it when we will start the PR with the proposal definition.
I think that's fine.
Okay.
Just,
Because that way we
not
don't
for
lose the
us.
issue, right? Once you
Yes.
close it, it's not top of mind. And I do think until we get the solution in place, to David's point, we should see that until, we fix the problem, whether that's definition or not. And keeping it visible keeps it on top of mind.
Yeah, but keeping it open remains the decision on whether or not this particular PR, right,
Mm-hmm.
is in question, and that's not true, right? So what I think we should do is we create a GitHub issue that references this PR that's closed. That we need.
There is already a GitHub issue. It is linked in the description.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this one.
So if we voted, so I'm confused. So why do we want to keep this open then?
It is to keep it in memory, and just because I have question in this place, not answered question, but I say close it when we will start the PR with the proposal definition for source. Just to not forget both subjects,
But
because
that's what this issue should represent then, right? Like we should this issue should have all the contents of this, right? Like this PR is just the PR for the change, right? So like,
but we start discussing in the PR about
I think it's preserving the discussion.
Yes.
And that he's referencing, not just the PR itself, like the discussion about the things are there. And so I get everything that you're saying, Ben. It makes sense that it's in the issues, but it's not hurting us having it there and visible. And it's a little, kind of a little poke to kind of go, yeah, we need to deal with this. So I am still for like just leaving it there. It's not hurting anybody.
okay, yeah.
Else,
So I guess
what I can do, I will copy paste your comment, my comment, I will copy and paste into the issue,
Yep.
and then I will close this PR.
There you go. See
okay.
compromise.
Yeah, because I was just gonna ask. I was like, so when do we close PRs? Like, if we have a discussion in it, right? Like, the discussion is like completely like not relevant to me when we're talking about the change, right? Like, yeah, like this should be in the issue. So, okay, yeah, please, if you could do that, David, that'd be really helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody gets to be different, man. It's all good. I get it. It's okay. Everybody gets to be different. Deep breaths. It's all right.
And then, okay, so we're gonna go ahead and close this. Oh, to be
Oh, and
closed.
can you put the so I had a reference that I put in the channel for the Cedrus expressions. And I don't know if anybody looked at that, but that's what I'm gonna put on the
Where here?
No, I put it, yeah, just put it on the agenda that the Cedrus expressions. I'm gonna want to talk about that next week.
Okay.
Um,
One sec.
yeah, I put it in the CDEvents SIG channel, and it was like, hey, this is the thing, because that was what I demoed, is those expressions, and it's the way to link, it's the workflow segments finished, realized, and with all of like the
This one?
detached and all of that stuff. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah. And then I have since I'm gonna make one more change to it before, and that was why I haven't put it on the thing yet because it's still a living document. But I think I have the last change before I can, and I'll be able to submit it next week.
Okay, that
Okay.
works for me. Uh,
But that is the it's not really a query system, but it's the thing that you run the pubs up against on the other
okay.
end.
What'd you call Citrus? Okay, I'll just copy this title.
Yeah. Cedrus. Cedrus, like the tree.
All right. Okay, so you wanted us to review this, or what would you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Part of what the whole thing that makes the thing work is the Cedrus expressions. And so when I'm showing the demo next week, I'm gonna go over the Cedrus expressions, and then I don't know if it's 253 or 250, but it is the solution to whatever the workflow segment one is. This is the solution.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, yeah. I will go ahead and review that. Okay, that works for me.
Mhm.
And then, all right, so let me see if there was any other PR. So we voted to close that one. So this is not consistent unless this PR here. So I wanted to bring this one up because there was um a Slack thread that talked about scheduling, and since we have the DC here, he can maybe talk
Mhm.
more
Mhm.
about this. Oh wait, this doesn't have the. Sorry, this was about enums, I think, not about scheduling.
He
Um,
has an issue. It's an issue, not a pull request.
oh, it was an issue. Okay, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so let's go to the issue here. Da, da, da. I think this one, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I'm curious on how this would look in CD events in terms of like a schema.
Yeah, I have an idea for it. I was just going to write the proposal. And that's what I told him that our part would be. We would write the proposal and I'd go back and forth with him so that we could
Hmm?
propose the solution. And so essentially the thing about CD events that, at least the way that I think through CD events is this is functional operationals that the tools are actually doing, or high level concepts that we make tools do, right? It's back to you can put something in a queue, or you can say, hey, I literally want to use a real scheduler that says at this time I'm going to do this thing, and I want to say, what those things are. And it's not going in the queue. It's just that I made a scheduling event that I want to record so that the system is aware that the system that you're working with is aware that the thing has been scheduled. Uh, I I think from an IDP perspective, working with CD events, that makes a lot of sense. Um, that allows you to do things like literally like it sounds like you can schedule a task for a later date or a later day. You can have a block of things that are scheduled, and then the system would be able to find the events that it actually was scheduled and then, take some actions against it. And it's really recording the events that people are interested in writing code against. And I could see writing code against the scheduler and like it literally solves so many problems in my own mind. So as he was talking to me about what he wanted to do with task run, I could see that we were thinking about the problem the same way. Um, and his issue was that he didn't want to say, I queued it. I need to let management know that, this whole thing had been set up for this date as of X in the process of the eventing process. So I think that was fine.
Oh, I misunderstood what his use case was.
Hmm. Yeah, I know.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. Okay, that helps.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think that makes sense. I'd be curious to. I'd be curious to see what it looks like though, because I still have some questions on
Yeah,
how.
that's why I'm going to write a proposal. Then you'll see
Yeah,
what
yeah,
it
yeah,
looks like,
yeah. Okay. Yeah,
and then
yeah.
give lots of feedback.
So okay, so let's think about it from the SDLC. So this is kind of more of just trying to understand the intention, the idea a little bit more.
Uh-huh.
So the CD events is basically facts, right? Just facts
Yep.
about, like the SDLC flow.
Yep.
So is the idea that, or I guess the scheduler versus queued, right? So
Right.
how are those, how would those be distinguished from one
Okay. It
another?
depends. Well, that's actually super simple. The queue is actually in the tool,
Mhm.
right? And so they give it, and I don't know if, and this is the other thing too, if a tool supports a delay, not I'm going to put it in a queue, but and I think they all do. Like if you're running on a cron, right? And
Mm.
that's the scheduler, okay? It's the
Yeah, yeah.
event to say I put this thing in the scheduler to be run at this time. Not I the thing has gone into the tool's queue. It's about I want to schedule a pipeline run for next Thursday, right?
Right. So I guess my question then becomes, so there's kind of like two ways I'm like looking at this. So we have
Hmm.
like the scheduler as a first class citizen, but then it almost sounds like you're curious on ultimately like the triggering mechanism as well, which is like schedulers
Sure.
one way, right? So I'm wondering if we can make it more generic or if that's getting a little bit too much in the weeds. Um,
How could you make it more generic than a scheduler?
no,
If
no,
I
no.
would
I'm
be
saying like instead of scheduler, it's like something like triggering, like some sort of it's like some way of like talking about how something was triggered, right? Well, in this
Well,
case,
no,
it'd
that's
be a
past tense, right? And so I don't want it when it's triggered, and that would make sense too, like the scheduler triggered a thing,
yeah,
that the,
yeah,
the event was actually triggered, but that's still just pipeline run, right? Because it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
when am I going to push the pipeline run button? And so the scheduler says, you're going to push the pipeline run button next Tuesday at 4.
This Tuesday, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so his use case actually was much better than I thought of because what he was concerned about is someone changing the schedule.
Right, right. Well, I guess my question is this, right? Because like most events happen pretty often, right? And I feel like the scheduler one, I mean, this is not
It's,
like to say it's wrong, but I'm just wondering, like, I imagine changing the schedule is pretty, not as frequent as like, for instance, like a GitHub commit, right? So I'm
yeah,
wondering,
but some
uh,
events are more frequent than others.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, no, no, that's what I'm saying. It's like not like a bad thing, but what I'm getting at though is like, um, is yeah, it's mostly like how often would this event be even sent? Which
why
is
would that
not
be relevant? What if it's only
no,
sent once a
it's not
year?
relevant. Like I'm just trying to understand. Like I'm not talking about like I'm not trying to like build a case against. I'm trying to like build the model in my head, like how events are going to
Hmm.
send this. And so for me, like I generally think, oh, how often is this event going to be sent? Like what does that look like when it's making its way through the system? So I'm just trying to understand, like like basically the whole story
Do
of
events make their way through the system or do they go straight to a queue?
they go through the queue, but my point is, goes to it starts out a producer, goes to a queue, and then goes to some consumers, right? So that's a system, right? That's the whole
Right.
system. So that's why I'm just wondering, like, what would that look like in
But
terms of
and I guess what I'm saying is I don't understand why that would look any different from any other one if that's the system. If the system is you go from the producer to a queue to a consumer, the scheduler event would do the
no, no,
same
no. I'm
thing. It
not
would go
saying it
from
would look
producer.
any different. What I'm
Oh,
saying
okay.
is just I'm like thinking about like 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 how often would this be sent? And like I'm just trying to understand the whole story, right? Because like
Yeah.
for GitHub, right? I'm like, okay, we send this every time we send a GitHub event. For this one particularly, it sounds like this would be sent every time a schedule is changed or updated or even added, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so okay, we know that's as less frequent as GitHub events. Not saying that's relevant, but I'm just like, I'm just like making these comparisons as I'm going through. And so, okay, so I think that should be good then. Um, so what else is there? So another thing that's kind of interesting about this one, because scheduling is it's almost like um it always points to something kind of similar to like approval events, right? Like it points to like a pipeline or like a um even a task, right? So is this gonna act the same way where scheduler is gonna point to the resource that it's gonna run, I'm guessing?
Yeah, I would definitely, that was my thought in, you would have to say with the references that you're scheduling.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so that would be some URL that is the trigger itself, right?
Mhm.
Because you are scheduling this is when this trigger is going to be fired, right?
Right,
And
right.
so it's not, hey, I'm gonna, fire the gun. I'm waiting for the target to line up. It's like, no, Tuesday at 4, you're going to fire the gun at that building. And
Right,
so,
right.
it's not the act of, it is creating the schedule. And when I see something like this, what I think about, and I probably is, I think about like the iCal deploy,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you know how long that lasts. And but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
all scheduled, right? And they do
Right,
have
right.
a schedule of like this is this, this and this, and some of them are conditional, right? That's only
Mm.
scheduled if this other thing happens. And so I won't, the concept of being able to capture all of that in CD events to paint the picture of, okay, are we in a ready state? Are all the things scheduled? Has anything moved? That makes sense to me. Just
Yeah, yeah.
intuitively makes sense,
So
right?
I
And
got a
so,
question though. Like, so because here's what I'm thinking, right? So you have the scheduling idea, which tells you when something's about to be run. So
mhm.
when it creates when a pipeline run event gets created, how does it tie back to the scheduling, or does it ever? Does it even care? Or because
When it's actually triggered, is
yeah,
this like post trigger?
yeah, this is post trigger when it
But
finishes.
okay, so I'm confused now about what that would have to do with an event that scheduled it.
No,
Why
no,
would
no,
the
because of this, right? So imagine your observability, right? And you want to look at, events that are going out at a scheduled time, right? So you look at the scheduling, oh, this goes out every 30 days, right? Then you look at pipeline run event, you expect these to happen in 30 days, right? But let's say there's one in the middle. How do you know that that one's out of schedule or if it was part of the schedule or what, right? So that's kind of what I'm
no, that's a
wondering.
function of that's a function of the scheduler, not of the event that said these things happened. You're
No, no, no,
talking when
no, no. What I'm getting at is how do you make that distinction? Let's say that middle, let's say
again,
that
that's a
one that,
function of the scheduler, not the
no, no,
event that
no,
says how
let me
things are.
finish. Let
No,
me,
I do
no,
understand
you're
what you're
not
saying. That's
getting
why I
it.
said it,
All right,
you know?
one sec. Let me say it because you're
Why don't you
not getting
explain
it.
it better? Yeah,
Hey, I'm
exactly.
gonna
Like
mute
the
you. I'm gonna
communication's
mute
on
you.
you, right?
No, 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 no. I'm muting you. Okay, because like, listen, I'm saying the thing that's sending it, right, is it's a manual trigger. It's not a person. How do you make the distinction like between the schedule versus the pipeline run? I'm asking, do you care about that?
Well, Ben, when you say something is scheduled by a thing, you have, if it's a service account, you would say that's the thing that's scheduling it, right? That actually push the trigger to make it go. That's a function of the scheduler and who actually triggers it. So are you conflating the act of triggering the thing with scheduling a thing? Or like that's what it sounds like to me that you're doing? Is that it's a conflation of what those two things are.
Yes, well, that's my point though, is because usually a schedule is going to trigger something, right? So what I'm trying to understand is how do you separate or how do you find out? My question is actually more just, do you care about this? When you're looking at pipeline runs, do you want to be able to group the pipeline runs to a particular thing that triggered it, like the scheduler, or
So
do you not care about that?
are you asking, do we keep the identity of the person who ran the pipeline with the pipeline run event, which is a separate statement about the scheduling thing,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. No, no, yeah, yeah. I understand. I'm saying, but do we? All I'm asking is like, I'm not
I
saying
think we
anything.
should. I think we should know who ran
Okay,
the
okay.
pipelines, right? Whether it was an
Yes.
automated process or a person. I do think that some identity for, whether it's the service account that was used by the scheduler when it was triggered,
Yes.
whether it's the person who was standing there at the thing and they pushed the button, or if it's a
Yep.
pipeline calling another pipeline. Yeah, no, I do think that the pipeline run should say who did it, or why it was, there should be some indicator of like this was done by this thing. That would be super awesome because that right now, that's the
Nah, it's
chain
not
ID.
there. Yeah.
Well, no, I use the chain ID, right? Well, because it's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
there with the chain ID in the
Yeah.
link
Yeah.
system. But yeah, no, we could explicitly move that out, but then that would be on the pipeline run, not necessarily on the scheduler, right? Because the scheduler is just telling you, the schedule, you know, thing did a thing, but it's not,
Yes.
it's the pipeline run that was triggered that wants to know who triggered me.
Yeah,
And those are
yeah, no,
separate.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think where I'm really failing to communicate here is like I'm not talking about the scheduler at all at this point. I'm just wondering if we care about knowing whether or not a scheduler triggered a pipeline run. So I'm kind of moving a little bit kind of tangential to the topic because what I'm wondering is if we do care about that, and we have this new scheduler concept. Maybe we need to create another PR that introduces like like the trigger, whoever triggered it, which would be the scheduler or whatever, right? So that's what I was trying to capture. Does that make sense?
So
Did you see?
yeah, I know, I get it, but that's why I was trying to tell you that the way that you were explaining it, but instead, you got elevated. But I appreciate you coming back to like really say that what I'm looking for is something on pipeline run that says who ran the pipeline. I agree with that information should be there for anything that is started. Yeah, we should know who started it, especially if it's like in the actual core framework,
Yes.
because that fits everywhere. And that's where I would put that. I would say if a pipeline is started, then, in the pipeline started event, capture whether it was capture the identity of the person who started it, of the thing
Right.
that
Right.
started it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's part of what this breaks down to overall is that some things in our system are like, schema based where it's like, I'm sorry, version based, where we're like, it's this version of a thing that we are concerned about. But some things are identity based, where it's like, no, this is specific to this group of people. And
Yes.
so that concept is actually part of what the Cedric's expressions capture too, because those are identity based. They're not version based.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
And to be clear, Didisi, so like the reason why I was out because you wasn't letting me finish my explanation because you had it misunderstood like what I was talking about. I was trying to be clear, right? So and I think that's really important when I'm trying to like clarify and you're like, oh, I know what you mean. I'm like, no, you, you don't. And then once I'm like author, then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, we need that, right? And that was kind of like what I was trying to get at. So I think it's really important to let others speak, well, especially when they're trying to explain something, right? So
mhm,
that's the point that I was trying to make, right? And and like I understand like you're very quick to these, you're really good at understanding things, but like my brain sometimes like is very odd in like how it groups things and like kind of like so like sometimes it's hard to follow. Like even me, I have trouble following my own train of thought, right? So like when I'm trying to
mhm.
explain it, right, like I'm trying to like give it so like it makes sense to basically everyone, right? So but yeah, but I think we're at the same page now, right? Where the scheduling concept seems, yeah, it seems like it's a core need that needs to happen from an observability perspective. But also, if we're interested in also figuring out how to group these triggering mechanisms together to like relate them back to either a scheduler or a person, we need that also on pipeline run, right? So,
Just a suggestion ID. Why not using the link system or the proposal of the link system? Today, it's how I create a relation between a user and a pipeline run or a task
Yeah.
run or etc. I try to use this extensible system that you
Mhm,
propose. Currently, I use the custom data because it's not part of the context. But
yeah, yeah,
maybe we could use link and say trigger by, and in this case, it's a reference to a scheduler or a
yes,
reference to a user, etc. And that way we can create graph of the relation between entities, subject.
Yes.
Yeah, I do something similar. And so, yeah, I agree with you, David. That's that wholeheartedly. Like I was using the links to do that, but this kind of makes that whole concept of first class citizen within CD events. And I think to the point that Ben was trying to make, like we need to capture that portion of that information. And I think pipeline runs a great way to do that. And it would just be there, so that you didn't, if you wanted to do that in a standalone way without a link system, you could do that.
Yeah, and I think both ways are fine. So generally, what I think of like, especially like within CD events, right, is so links are supposed to be like resource, event to resource, things of that nature, right? And a person is definitely like some sort of like identifier with like it's a resource, right? I mean, we don't want to call people resources, but that's what they are in systems, right? But the one thing that I think is a little bit blurry on, especially like when it comes with like pipeline run, and like GitHub commits, right, is that GitHub commits, come from one particular person, right? Then you have a pipeline run come from another particular person, right? Because it's a different system, it's gonna have a different account, right? So yeah, you can use a link to, kind of like go back to a resource, but it's never probably going to be the same resource, right? So I think having that identifier on the actual events themselves makes sense because, like I said, when you get into like accounts, it's a little odd in how they are and how they behave inside of CD events. That when I think about the problem, at least, but with that said, is if you want to represent them as potential links, I think that makes sense too, right? And if we go back to the actual links page, um, we give actually some da, 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 give some examples of I think some relations. Let me see here, relation. Let's see. Yeah, we have like trigger, right? So we have this relation like trigger, but we don't actually model this anywhere, right? So I've been thinking about this recently. It's like, what if we had like some known types that we model, like trigger or group or artifact, right? So
Today, to be honest, for link kind, like I use the list that you proposed on the on your PR issue about
PR,
links.
yeah,
Yes, where we say triggered by, caused
yeah.
by, tested, about tested what, etc. Because I use it also to link test, to link
Yes. And I think
everything.
that was kind of my point is like because that PR does have the list there, but I think we can actually make that part of the schema, right? Where we just take those types and add it, like inside of the links here. Go schemas, um, go to links. I think we could just have like, like a common or like enums or something here, right? That would have all of those common definitions. Would that be useful for you, David? Because I think it would be more helpful for people in general, actually.
Yes, today I already use a list, a predefined list for
Oh,
my.
do you want to create a PR for that? That would be awesome.
Oh, I use the list. I copy the list you put in
Oh,
the
got it. So
in the
yeah,
pull pull request.
just not in a schema. Okay, yeah. What I'll do is
Mm.
I'll put it in a schema, and then that way it's a little bit more strongly typed, and we can actually, if we want to add something, we can always add it and just be part of the grouping, right? That way, my worry by not having this list is that some people will use like trigger by, other people's will use trigger and then or author, for example, right? So it's like just having one way of doing it, I think makes it very, very clear. Or at least, it tries to. So okay, so I'll go ahead and create that PR. And that should help. Let's see, create PR for link events. I don't know. Is this a concept in JSON schema? Do you know, David, or did you see that JSON schema has a link constants that's outside of enum?
const, but const is for a single value.
Oh, is it? Let's see.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I see, I see. Hmm, that doesn't help. Okay. Uh,
And there is no
hmm.
open enum as you are as you're looking for.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to use enum because it's closed, right? So we don't want to like
Yes.
abuse that any more than we already have, right? So okay, I'll take a look at this to see if I can make this work. But if not, we can figure something else out. Um, okay, let me see here. Link trigger constants. Okay, that should at least help us going forward with some governance on the link trigger kinds. Because I've been actually thinking about that for the longest time. It's like, how do we make sure that people don't, create 10 different ways to do the same thing or relate to the same thing? And I think this kind of helps with that problem. So, okay, cool. That really helps. And then yeah, so please take a look at this. So when we're reviewing this to DC, just out of curiosity, like what are we reviewing this like to make sure things look good, or are we reviewing this more for just getting some context for next week, or both?
Yeah, you're both, because this is what I'm going to submit
Okay.
to as the solution to the problem. And just it's basically the pre-read of a links proposal, right? This is the pre-read of the thing I'm going to propose that we're going to have commentary about. So if you'd
Okay.
want to make some of that commentary or ask questions or gain understanding now. And part of what I'm doing is like like there were some people who went over it with me during like the conference. And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's
yeah.
why I'm saying there's stuff that, I know that immediately needs to be changed. No, I
Okay.
was going to make one other change because there is an issue of setting up the queries that go with this on the other
Hmm.
end, but the everything, all the major stuff is there. And especially that whole if actually where you are right now, where
Yeah,
you
yeah.
see that minimal expression, that's the yeah, that's basically the how it's identity based is what's going on there. It's not version based. It belongs to that author of that group, and every one of those would then belong to the author and group, right?
Okay.
And so you'll end up with literally hundreds of thousands of those things floating around the system, around the conduit system, because, by nature, a person in your compliance organization can then subscribe to pipelines looking for a particular event that they told that team to have in their builds.
Hmm.
And that event would just come out and boof, close the loop, showing that the work was done. And yeah, it's just a hop away from verifiability. So it's pretty cool.
Okay, okay. And then for author, because I know she said it's the engineer. Do we also
No,
with
it's an identity, right? And so engineers can use service accounts. One of the examples that are in there somewhere, it's a service account.
okay.
Uh,
And then what about like a team? Because a team can also have an identity or be an author technically.
well, a team, yeah, but this is solving the problem of the who that we were talking about, for the run where we were doing and the thing. So the team would use a service account.
Service count. Okay, just
Yeah.
okay. That makes sense. All right. Um, yeah, yeah, we can definitely take a look. So out of curiosity, because I'm looking through this, so is the proposal, is it going to be a schema? So is it going to be a schema of
Yeah,
representing this? Okay.
there is a schema that goes with it. It says it in the proposal. See down there, it says there's a workflow schema, and
Ah, here we go. Okay,
yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I haven't attached those to that. I'm more than happy to do that if you guys want to see them now. I do have the schemas.
Yeah,
But
if you
yeah,
could
yeah,
just
sure,
give
I'll
us
do
a
it.
little bit of context to like
Yeah, yeah,
look
I'll
at
do that. I'll
what
do
to
that.
expect. Okay, awesome,
Yeah.
awesome.
But,
Uh,
it's one of those things too. Yeah, actually, we should be done because we're setting up the playground now. And I think the last set of things that we were dealing with over the weekend is, yeah, the last change we had to make to the schema. So, yeah,
okay.
it's there.
And then out of curiosity, so these open questions, are any of these blockers for before we start should actually looking or like when you guys
No,
put
I just included the things that I was thinking about. And when you're doing the banter back and forth with your AI buddy of choice, you
Yeah.
end up with a whole list of real questions.
Okay, okay.
But some of those were more like the identity transfer one is like, what happens if
Yeah,
someone
yeah.
leaves an organization? That's technically not for the system to solve, but it is something to kind of call out that, hey, in the group referencing thing, like, did it need to be more or
Hmm.
less, right? Does it need to be more explicit or less explicit? The one about the workflow inversion that no longer matters. I should have erased it. I should have taken that out because I moved away. Like originally when we did the concept of workflow segments, they were versioned,
Hmm.
right? And so the problem with that is that people would never know what, what version, you would have to use version XYZ with this thing and version, 247 with this other thing, where with the identity base, you can just say it's yours and then be done with it.
And yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And
Yeah.
but I think the big one that I was curious about was actually this one, because this one seems pretty important for the schema itself, right?
Mhm.
Were we planning on answering this one or coming to some sort of consensus on this,
Well, I
or
have done that in the schema. So, like I said, I put the questions in there that were just general questions.
just open?
And
Okay.
so this was more around the fact that that part of the thing that I'm going to propose later on had to do with the base event and inheritance and being able to have companies create their own without coming and registering with us. That doesn't make any sense in my mind. To use a CD event, you shouldn't have to come to us, register it, and put it somewhere. It should just fit the schemas and work.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you should be able to define your own schemas and businesses should be able to say, no, we're going to keep these events just to ourselves, and we are the only people with these event schemas, and it's only going to work with our tool. That should be 100% allowed, right?
yeah,
Even
yeah,
in an open system. And so, yeah, that's what the next part of my solution is going to account for. Like, how do we give businesses and companies autonomy to work together in this space? And I mean, it's problems that have already been solved with things like Java and any programming language where you are saying that this is my library. I mean, that thing, we should be able to do the same thing with these events to say this is my event.
okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I really look forward to this. So you're demoing this next week. So I know we have only a minute left, but do we know when we expect to see this proposal? Like, is this going to be next
No,
week or a
that's
couple of?
the oh yeah, if you guys give some feedback, I was going to um send it to the greater, I was going to put it as the on the issue as, hey, here's the proposal to solve the issue so that folks can say, hey, can we close the issue, right? And say,
Got
okay,
it,
it's
got it.
solved. And essentially then do the PR for this as with the schemas.
Yep, yep.
Similar to how you did with the links. That's literally the model that I was following,
Yeah, yeah,
except that I took the step of saying, hey guys, take a look before I do it. Do you see any weaknesses in this as a system? And there were still some things that didn't feel quite right. Like I said, going into the CDCon. One
mhm,
of those had to do with the fact that the version was still doing version numbers all the way almost up to a week before the I was supposed to do the demo, and it just didn't feel right. And so that's when I made the switch to identity, and that solved a bunch of problems.
got it,
And it
got it.
made the whole presentation pop because you could see the difference on the screen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
All right, folks, I got to
Okay.
drop. I apologize, but I got to
Yeah,
go.
yeah, same, same. Okay, I look forward to the PR. Just yeah, ping us to let us know when you create it, and then we can go ahead and
Yeah,
definitely take a look.
yeah.
And
If you
and
guys don't want to take a look at that and just wait for the PR, that's fine too.
no, no, I'm gonna take a look. Yeah, I'll take a look at it now. But yeah, once we have the PR, it'll just be a little bit more concrete, is what I was getting at.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, if anyone else has any questions, please let us know. Slack channel, or what have you. It was always good talking to you all. And
Yeah.
if you have any other concerns based off what we talked about, just let me know. All right. All right. Have a
Okay.
good one, David.
Bye.
All right. Bye.